I'd like to call this public meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world, and also for those who have passed away in our community, including Mary Sylvester, Willie Reynolds, and Mary Ann Slavinsky. Please keep the Sylvester, Reynolds, and Slavinsky families in your thoughts this evening. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Here.
Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Dr. Rothchild? Here. Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Mr. Donahue?
Here.
I would like to make a motion to authorize the city clerk to place a legal notice in the newspaper for a city council person vacancy.
Second.
There is a motion on the floor and a second to place a legal ad in the newspaper for an upcoming council vacancy. On the question, I haven't yet submitted my letter of resignation, but I will be submitting it shortly, effective November 30th. So in order to allow for council to make a smooth transition in terms of our membership, we're going to place an ad in the newspaper. I believe it's going to go in on Saturday and Sunday this week, laying out the process for to fill a council vacancy. Anyone else on the question?
On the question, I just want to congratulate Councilman Donahue on his election to the State House. We'll miss you once you do resign and you're completed with your term here with council. But in the meantime, I look forward to some hopeful, great applicants who can help fill those shoes.
Thank you.
I'd also like to congratulate Kyle on his victory and wish him the best of luck as our new state rep, and thank him for his assistance as I became a new member of council. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd also like to congratulate Kyle. Best of luck in the future, Kyle.
Thank you, Tim.
I'd also like to congratulate Kyle. Good job. Best of luck.
Thanks, Brent. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved. Please dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A, correspondence received November 1st, 2022 from OECD regarding code enforcement's report for City Council. 3B, minutes of the Human Relations Commission meeting held April 28th, 2022.
Are there any comments on any of the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
I have one announcement for the Holiday Lighting Spectacular kickoff. That'll be happening November 18th at 5 p.m. outside of the Everhart Museum. So this is something that's been happening for a long time now. So you'll be able to drive through the lights. It's going to be the first night that it's opened. There's going to be a few other things included at the event. There will be a special guest appearance by the Grinch. So for any kids that aren't fearful of the Grinch and want to be able to see him, holiday music, free coffee, free holiday hats, and a free holiday photo session. So don't miss that date. That's November 18th at 5 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any other council members have announcements?
Yes, I have an announcement. So the Mary Mother of God Parish will be having their annual roast beef dinner. It's going to be held on Sunday, November 13th from 12 to 4. It's going to be at Sterna's. It's going to be $11 in advance and $14 at the door.
Thank you. Do any other council members have any announcements? Thank you. Do any other council members have any announcements? I just have one, just a reminder that for the rest of this week, garbage collection will be a day late because of Election Day. And also next week, garbage will be a day late because of an observance of Veterans Day. Since Election Day and Veterans Day fall in the same week, in order to not, disrupt too much our garbage collection. DPW will observe Veterans Day on November 14th. City Hall observes Veterans Day tomorrow, but DPW will observe it on Monday as one of their days off, so garbage collection will also be late next week. Mr. Voldenberg?
Fourth order, citizens' participation.
First on the list is Joan Hodowanitz.
Joan Hodowanitz, Scranton. First of all, congratulations, Kyle.
Thank you.
Hate to see you go in many ways, but you better represent us well when you get down to Harrisburg. We'll be looking for our payback.
Absolutely.
If you would, in fifth order, please update us on the status of the police, fire, and single tax office contracts and the 2021 audit. And I tried to go on the city website last several days to see if the new DPW contract was on it instead of the old one. But when I went to city archives and then from there to financial reports, I reached a page which had no documents to open. Now, either they've moved financial documents to another part of the website or something is amiss. So would somebody let me know next week how I can find all the labor agreements and pension plans and all the stuff that was under the financial documents? I was, I'm hoping to see that, especially with the other union contracts being negotiated. With regard to the budget briefings during the caucus, I pulled up the Pell document from October 2021, which was the recommendation to take us out of Act 47. And I want to read this quote. Quote, "The coordinator recommends that the city increase its property tax millage rate by 5.1%, 14.8%, and 0.7% in the years 2024 through 2026, unquote. Now, if you add the 3% for 2023, that would be a total of 23.6% property tax increase by 2026. Granted, nobody can read the future precisely, but I do think the Pell assessment is far more realistic than what the mayor said about keeping tax increases in the 2 to 3% region. Because this assessment was based on Pell's analysis that expenses were going to exceed revenues over those years. So we shall see what we shall see. Also, I looked at the budget and the salary increases for DPW, and they seem to be very much in the ballpark for what came out in their approved union contract. Then I looked at police, fire, and the single tax office, and there was no change in salaries from 2022 to 2023. Now, we all know that the meat of the operational budget is personnel compensation. So my question is, how long are we going to wait on those union contracts? Because you're going to end up having to reopen the budget next year. Because I can't believe those unions are going to say, oh, we won't take any pay raises. We want to balance the budget. That's why I've been asking every week, what's going on with those union contracts? And you've only got what? You want to pass this budget before the end of the month? Something's not right here. This doesn't pass the stink test in my eyes. Also, I looked at, remember how we had to allot $110,000 for electricity? So I looked at some of the utilities. Electricity is going to go up 100%, telephones 60%, gas, oil, and lubricants 58%. But for some reason, water is not going up at all. nor is salt. So that's the good news. And there are several very suspicious line items in this budget. I'm only going to give you one example. DPW admin professional services. It's going from $88,500 to $3,495,000 with no footnote. Good luck.
So, just so, those are the grant matches for the 4 bridge projects.
Okay, but see, that's why God invented footnotes.
Yes.
Because you think we're not looking at these items? We are.
Next on the list, Lee Morgan.
Good evening, Council. Lee Morgan. I had an opportunity here for a moment to talk to the mayor and asked her to agree to have a sit-down and discussion on the issues about the slide at Naog Park. And I asked ECTV if they'd carry it. And I'd also like to invite the council to come, the individual members, and the city controller and the recreation authority, because I think it's important for the residents to get a much better grasp on what's occurred there, in my opinion. And for me to make statements here at the podium would be a little silly, because I think that you should give every party the opportunity to sit at a table, not with a 5-minute time limit, not with a controlled conversation, but with a dialogue, okay? And a look to the controlling factors of what took place, so that the residents of this city could determine whether the city controller did his job, whether the council did their job, whether the rec authority did their job. Because I think it's really important for everybody to get a complete understanding of what's taking place, in my opinion. And you know something? I could be wrong. But if I'm right, then terrible things have occurred. And I don't know why the mayor wouldn't want to come and sit at a table with the resident, somebody that's gone to these council meetings for almost 40 years. Okay? I've argued my points between judges in Commonwealth Court, Superior Court, the Court of Common Pleas, so I can express myself, and I think that we should give the council members the opportunity to express themselves and the obligation and burden that they were under. You can bring your solicitor. I told the mayor she could bring hers. The rec authority can bring theirs. Everybody can bring their attorneys with them. But I think the residents of this city are entitled to one thing for once, fact. And then from there, maybe we should move on and start having discussions on a host of many other things. Because I think that we have a government that doesn't really tell us the things they should tell us. And me, I just looked at it at a glance, and I think there's something wrong with it. And you know, I want you to think of all the children in this city that might end up going and drowning somewhere because they don't have a pool at Naog. And think about the burden you're under. And then think of all the federal funds, just to take your eye off that for a minute, and think of the funds that were used to build those assets. You know, in my lifetime, we've lost everything. And we've been lied to, whether it was the county commissioners, the councils, the mayors. And our quality of life has suffered, and the taxes we have paid have increased, and we have nothing to show for them except political propaganda and straight out lies. So I'm going to set this up with ECTV. I think you should come. I think we should have an open dialogue. I think we should look at what the law says and what the law says how things should be done. And then I think you should say why you did what you did and whether you thought you met your burden as a mayor, a councilman, a city controller, or, an authority. That's all I'm asking, and I think that the residents have a right to it. In my opinion, doesn't matter at all. Let's just see what facts are. Thank you for your time, and I will call the individual bodies and see who's willing to sit down and have a discussion. Thank you.
Next on the list, Les Spindler.
Evening, Council. Les Spindler, city resident, homeowner. First off, I'd like to congratulate Representative-elect Donahue on his big win on Tuesday, and everybody else that won in this area and this state of Pennsylvania. It was a great day for the blue team, and there was supposed to be a big red wave all over the country. I think the blue wave washed the red wave back out into the ocean. And especially in Pennsylvania, Democrats had a great Tuesday. We even took over the House, which was totally unexpected. So I know the new governor will have, I think he's going to get a lot done with the new Congress, and hopefully it'll be a great next 4 years for Pennsylvania. Next thing, I spoke to the mayor and the business administrator / DPW director about the intersection where I live on our corner. He said, last time I was here, he sent a crew up to the house. I said, well, nobody ever saw me. I mean, I was working. But he said, the problem is there's a crown on that intersection. Every time they pave the area, I guess maybe they don't mill it enough. And I said, whether there's a crown or not, the blacktop on my corner is washed away. If it wasn't washed away, I wouldn't get the water on my sidewalk. It doesn't matter if there's a crown or not. I told him that tonight. He said, oh, I'll send a crew up tomorrow. I said, tomorrow's going to rain. He goes, that's the perfect opportunity to look at it. So yes, I told him, it's not the crown. I need a good curb on my corner so I don't get the water right in front of my house. Well, whatever. But I know it won't get done this year because after the rain tomorrow, the cold's coming. They're not going to be around. Moving on. I walked in the middle of the budget talks, and the one thing I saw was the raises, and then it went off the screen. But the first one I saw was the Parks and Recreation Director, a $21,000 raise. Are you serious? And there's people that work in the city that don't make $21,000 a year, and this person's getting a $21,000 raise? And I'm sure there's more down the list that are getting raises too, but I only saw the first one. You can't pass something like this. I mean, that's ridiculous. You have people struggling to pay their bills, and it's $21,000 is ridiculous. That's all I have to say tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list, Susan Bloom Connors.
Good evening. My name is Susan Blum Connors, a Scranton homeowner and taxpayer. And before I begin my remarks, I would also like to add my congratulations to Kyle on being elected a state representative. Best of luck as you begin the next chapter in your life.
Thank you.
I would also like to acknowledge all of our veterans and thank them for their service. I last spoke to council several years ago about pancreatic cancer awareness, and I'm here tonight to address the same issue. So you won't hear any complaints from me about anything. November is Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month. My sister-in-law, former Mayor Jim Connor's sister Tina, died of pancreatic cancer on January 25th, 1994, just 10 days after her 43rd birthday. This year, more than 62,000 Americans will be diagnosed with this devastating disease, and only 10% of those will survive for more than 5 years. The Pancreatic Cancer Action Network is leading large-scale, groundbreaking research initiatives that will be the catalyst for transforming the way pancreatic cancer is detected and treated. This, of course, takes money, which is why I'm here this evening. Pizza by Pappas, owned by Bill and Tom Schikowski, will be having its annual pancreatic cancer fundraiser on Sunday, November 20th, from noon until 5 o'clock. 50% of all pizza sales, which by the way is the only food that will be available for purchase that day, will be donated to the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network. To date, over $132,000 has been raised for this very worthwhile cause. Besides freshly made pizza, you can also purchase take and bakes, which are shrink wrapped and can be frozen and baked at a later date. If you want the pizza at a specific time, I suggest you call ahead, even a couple days ahead, to help ensure your preferred time. Their number is 570-346-2290. Indoor dining, takeout, curbside pickup, and weather permitting, outdoor dining will be available. Thank you for your time and support.
Thank you, Susie. Next on the list, Dave Dobson.
Good evening, Council. Dave Dobson, resident, homeowner. We really need to, as I have stated along many times in the past, we have to get compensation from the state for institutional property. We have grand tax exempt institutions, can't have it any other way. A homeless person winds up in the hospital after 3 years. This figure is pre-Obama. On average will cost the hospital $155,000. That's pre-Obama. And taxes are going up, and as along with it, institutions. It's state buildings, federal buildings, county buildings, hospitals, schools. It just keeps going on and on and on. And I don't resent them. I wouldn't even be alive if CMC wasn't up there. And that's been going on for years. But we really need to start getting some kind of compensation by the state constitution. We can't refuse. We can't say, please don't come here. We can't say anything. We can only give them the institutional land, and they acquired it up on Prescott Avenue, and that's it. Or it's not Prescott, it's Colfax. I got those two mixed up. But we really need to get some kind. I had hoped to rejuvenate the Taxpayers Association and oust the county, Greater Lackawanna title. That never came together. Nobody seemed to be interested, and I wanted to handle strictly Scranton. And probably, like with the school system too, we have the same problem. And I would guess that if local authorities got involved with such talk, they might even get punished by somebody from upstairs in Harrisburg, who knows. But it just keeps growing and growing. And Joan Hodowanis is right. We really have to try and settle that term too ugly. with the police and fire. I have been coming since then, when we owed 5 years and 6 years and 7 years, and it really blew up. We almost went under as a town, and I don't know, they're saying, well, we could split the Scranton up. Who would want a bankrupt city? Who would want it? You know, who would want to join Music? Dixon City? I don't think so. And it just, I mean, Pennsylvania came through with the election. I was optimistic about that. I'm not optimistic about the way the election turned out. We really need a national voting law and national voting regulations, regulation machines. I'm sorry, 6 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks or 4 weeks or 3 weeks for California is just, and then you have Nevada and you have Arizona, and that's how all of the accusations start flying around. And, well, seeing as you guys have already worked several hours, I'll give you a couple minutes back. You can thank me later. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Dobson. Next on the list, Bob Bolus.
Evening, Council. Bob Bolus, Scranton. You know, I took a look at what was going on with the budget here. You know, if you stop and think, when we had what was called Lake Lincoln, it was a natural lake, so to speak, that we had in this city. Doherty turned around and put a liner in rather than common sense repair the issues. And you see what we're paying today. How many of us here want to run under a splash park and go whoopee whoopee with their wheelchairs? They can't walk with their canes. What about senior citizens? Absolutely zero concern. You filled it in with dirt, which was the most incompetent thing I've seen done. You had all the wrong people involved. Now you got a dirt park. You ripped down the sliding board that cost us thousands of dollars. What have you proven? The only thing you've proven, the park recreation people, and I've challenged them in the past in a lawsuit over the parking up there that Geisinger was doing. You should be getting $1 million a year for all those cars that are parked up there, $100,000 a year after that. But no, council wouldn't disband them, council wouldn't get involved, and you let them run rampant up there. And they've knocked the hell out of the park. They knocked the hell out of our park. It's not their park, it's our park. And to sit back and watch all this money you want to dump on them, $700,000-800,000, eliminate the park and let Scranton Park and Recreation do it. You're already paying the people to do the job. Why are you duplicating it with an authority that's incompetent as far as I'm concerned? You've ruined an asset of the people, and you've taken away from the people a place to go enjoy ourselves. Maybe people probably don't remember, but you used to have Easter. Families used to come to Nahog Park, and they used to enjoy themselves, and they swim in Lake Lincoln. Now what the hell do you have up there? A mud hole? And it's wrong. The other part that's really annoyed me and all, and I've been here my whole life, and I see just the way it's going and going, because the voice of the people don't mean a thing to council or any other administrations past. I'm going to ask you tonight, Kyle, you're moving on, and I've asked you this before you went for your election. If you, now that you're elected, do you intend to take our voice away when you're now representing us in the state, as you did when you named the streets for Biden? We've asked you to remove the streets from Biden, put them on a referendum.
You're one of 80,000 people. You don't represent the voice of the people.
Yeah, I do.
No, you do not.
Yeah, I did. I put a uniform on for this
not.
country, and I did a hell of a lot more than you have done. You want to stand toe-to-toe about it, we could go at it, my friend.
You are one of
I've been all over
80,000 people.
I've traveled all over the world. It's unfortunate.
But you
that
couldn't make
that
it to
attitude-
DC.
Are you going to take
You
the
couldn't
voice
find
of the
DC.
people away? You're not going to defend me on it, and you're not going to challenge me. You work for me. I don't work for you. All right? I asked you a straight question. Will you make a motion tonight to remove the signs, the Biden
No.
signs?
No.
Okay, I wish you had said that before. You probably wouldn't have got elected. But unfortunately, we have to deal what we have to deal with. And I'll be very frank, I didn't vote for you, so we can put that on the table.
I didn't expect you to vote for me.
Well, you would have if you stood up for the people in the city. I would have backed you 100% because I don't believe party one way or the other. I believe in the individual. Okay, and I've contributed a lot more to this city than anybody else has in a long, long time. Okay, I haven't seen you sponsor a dinner for the last 28 years and feed over 3,000 people. So if you want to challenge me on something, be my guest friend. I'll take you on any day. We have 20-some trailer loads of disinfectant wipes that I'm donating out. All they have to do is call my office, come up and pick them up. All right, I gave it to the mayor. We just sent 2 trailer loads to Texas. I've got 10 of them going to Florida. I don't ask you for nothing. Okay, all I ask you to do is stand up and represent us the way we should be represented. And I'll say it, it's unfortunate you got elected. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Bullis. That exhausts the sign-in sheet for this evening. Would anyone else like to address council?
Tom Coyne, Manuka. Members of council, I see we have a reappointment for the Housing Board, and I understand that we have at least 2 applicants. It would be nice if we were given the opportunity to vet all applicants in a public forum and make an informed choice and at least get the public input on boards. Thomas Scalia Sr., I believe, is 83 years old. The 5-year term would expire when he's 88 years old. This is concerning. Now for the absurd waste of time, 7D. For the use of 2 portable light stands, November 8th, 2022, Election Day. If this is voted down, has anyone figured out how to go back in time and resolve the conflict? And if so, I'd like them to buy me a lottery ticket for the $2.1 billion lottery drawing, because I now have the numbers. Of the recovery funds, we were told any disbursement would come back to council before approval. It seems they are being handed out without returning here as promised per the grant listings. I see $25,000 to the Right Center for Community Health, a community group who tried to steal from the people during COVID by exploitation and fraudulent billing, having them removed and banned from the program. So we are rewarding a group who tried to scam during the pandemic with pandemic recovery funds. Interesting. On finances, as the budget is looming. Last meeting, I talked about paying for a company to monitor compliance of the other company who was hired for compliance of the recovery funds. When we audit, for example, personal use of gas card abuse was brought forth. The city hired an auditor to review and provide a report. He stated the city should be reimbursed for personal use, but the city decided not to pursue it. So we have someone who stole taxpayer money, then we hire someone to figure out how much, then we do nothing, wasting both the gas money and the auditor's billed time. We hire a company that says you'll recover $1 million in saving from optimizing the DPW routes. But already 7 months into it, you have savings of nothing. The equipment is the vendors, and if I remember the original contract details, they owned the data. The Recovery Act, we were told that distribution would come back to council for approval. But as in Luzerne County, that seems to not happen. The city of Scranton was awarded financial aid to local iconic businesses and announced plans to provide up to $3 million to small business owners through the American Rescue Plan. Cooper's got a tiki bar. Our loan to grant program is helping business owners that forgives the loan in total. Funny when it's the individual homeowners getting funds, they effectively have a lien that in selling or transferring the improved property, even after 10 years, the money has to be returned. No conversion. But businesses, nope. People matter less than a commercial bar. Scranton is to see $4 million in funding. The Electric City is getting millions of dollars, with some of the funding going to Naog Park. Naog Park will receive $500,000 to put in pickleball courts. The cost of a pickleball court can range from $6,000 to $9,100. I guess Naog Park is getting 55 pickleball courts. One thing that won't be coming back to the park is the swimming pool. Mayor Cognetti said the city doesn't have funding for a pool complex right now. In this, it looks like the mayor of Scranton is giving the population of Scranton the big pickle. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address council?
Marie Schumacher. After sitting on that side of the rail for 2 hours, I moved to number one item tonight, acoustics. I believe we were promised improvements. Where are they?
A bid is going out shortly. A bid is going out shortly.
I think we heard that before, didn't we?
I don't write the bids.
Well, you certainly have people who do that you could put some pressure on, but you on this side, not on that side. Okay. Number two, what is the, yeah, I read my own writing. What is the status of, skip that one, salaries in the budget? I think that if you give these large increases in salary so that we are more competitive, I think they all should be put on the market. And we should ask for people who are interested in those jobs for the new amount. And then we should make sure that the city gets the best that is possible for us. And the next, the contracts. Now, it was Mayor Courtwright who gave the police and firemen long contracts, so we've known for many years when the contracts expired. Are we going to go another year without contracts for the fire and police? Does anybody know what the status is? How often are they meeting? Tell us something, because this should have been done.
CBA negotiations are ongoing.
I'm sorry.
CBA, collective bargaining agreement negotiations are ongoing.
Okay. And do they have a estimated time, how close they are?
I don't know. I mean, they're not going to negotiate publicly, I know that, so.
Well, I think it's terrible that we don't have contracts right now. And speaking of things, I finally figured out yesterday morning why you promised that we would have stormwater taken care of by the end of the year. It was because you didn't plan to be here. And that was pretty clever of you, but...
I'm sorry I was off by 3 months.
What's the...
I'm sorry, I was off by 3 months.
Okay, are we going to get one? So you're saying now it's going to be March?
That was what we were told when we had our stormwater caucus about a month ago.
And since we aren't going to have any pools at NAOG, could we please at least cover the signs that point to the swim or the pool complex?
I'll request that, yes.
That's just like pouring methylate on a cut. What else? Oh. Yes. The changing of the Spruce Street, I will never forget, because every councilman went with whosever brilliant idea it was to make that change, listened over 3 weeks for people who were going to be impacted by that. And did you listen to any of them? Those of you who were here, not everybody was, of course. But no, that was okay. And I think it was terrible. I think it should have been put on the ballot to see if people in Scranton really wanted that done. And I think you would have lost, but we don't get what we even ask for ever, hardly. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address council?
Delmar Gazevich, Scranton City taxpayer. First, I'd like to clarify an error that I made last week. Last week, I asserted that the average car payment in America is $700 a month. That is close to accurate for the average new car payment. The average used car payment in America is $515 a month. That was my error, and I apologize. Now, I'm here, of course, to speak about the trains. As I've said many times before, we need the Laurel line to connect Wilkes-Barre to Scranton and connect the surrounding communities. I've discussed before how traffic safety is a big reason why we need to have the train. Last week we saw very, very clearly how inadequate public transit throws people into poverty and can create unsafe environments. Just yesterday on I-81 in Plains, a woman was killed in a car crash, something that might have been able to be avoided if she had been able to take alternative transportation, either a reliable bus or preferably the train system. But on everyone's minds tonight and for the past couple of weeks has mostly been about the pool structure in NAOG Park. And we've heard that there just haven't been enough funds for it. But I have a solution to that problem, and it is, in fact, building the train. What we need to do is get off our addiction to cars. The city of Scranton, and many other municipalities across the country, has a serious problem with being designed for automotive in ways that don't work for the community. Take a walk around downtown Scranton. You'll pass many, many, many parking lots, parking garages that take up half a block that are mostly empty. Mr. Donahue, I saw you at the mural unveiling the other day, and that's right between, I believe, 3 large parking lots right across the street from a 4 or 5 story parking garage, all of which are predominantly empty. This is all land that is completely useless to the city. It's underutilized. And if the city, if developers could come in and repurpose that land to put mixed-use, walkable environments for the citizen, homes, businesses on these lands that are currently wasted, creating an urban heat sink, increasing the actual physical temperature of the city of Scranton, the city would be able to bring in so much revenue through taxes from businesses, from employment taxes, from property taxes, All of this is untapped potential right in the center of the city of Scranton. I don't know who initially agreed to have these properties raised to cover and blacktop, to rent out parking spaces that no one's buying. But we need to fix that as fast as possible. And having the train allows people to have an alternative to cars. They don't have to drive into the city, and they won't have to look for parking that they're not buying anyway, because these parking lots are privately owned and expensive. People's perception of their relationship with the automobile and the city does not match the reality. If you walk around Scranton during peak hours, there are so many parking spots on the street that aren't taken, let alone in these numerous parking garages and parking lots, all of which is a huge waste of city resources, and again, creates problems for the environment, raising the temperature of the city, encouraging automotive transit, which pollutes and creates waste, discourages people from walking, prevents people from walking because there's nowhere to walk to. We know that one of the biggest ways to increase small business revenue is through walkability. And that's why I imagine part of the reason, at least, why the city's been pushing for it recently. And that's fantastic. But we need to have somewhere for these people to walk to, and we need to have somewhere for these people to walk from. And replacing these huge swaths of parking lot with mixed-use buildings, with properties that actually benefit the citizen and the community is definitely the solution. And congratulations, Mr. Donahue, on your victory. You'll definitely be hearing from me.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address council?
Yes, council. To rehash my problem real quick. Last month, my neighbor, 2 houses up, 2 doors up, was evicted. Everything he owned was in the yard, well over 50 feet from my front yard. Everybody in the morning scattered it. It was everywhere. Mr. Sunday come by Wednesday and gives me a summons for rubbish. So I phoned down there to complain, and they said they'd have him phone me, which nobody phones. I don't know why the city has telephones for the people, because they don't answer a call. Friday, I get another ticket on the door for rubbish, and I went down there. They told me this is nothing they can do. It's Mr. Sunday's sees rubbish in my yard. And the lady had a computer, and she's looking at everything. Monday, I get a $100 ticket right here for indoor furniture on my porch. There's a chair, there's a metal chair, it's a lawn chair that's been there for 20 years. It didn't come from the house. I don't know what's wrong with these people down in the licensing bureau. So I went down and I complained about this. And they gave me the form to fill out where you put $300 up to appeal it, but if you win, which I would, I don't get the money back. It's on this appeal twice saying you don't. There's no refunds. In the meantime, I just let that go. Yesterday, I get a $200 and some ticket for the rubbish again. He's back from the lawn chair back to the rubbish pile. And I can take care of that. I have an attorney that's interested, one of the boys I went to school with, in coaching me. You just don't know how frustrating this is over absolutely nothing. There shouldn't have been anything issued to my house to start with. I feel that this is a deliberate, vindictive response for my first 2 complaints that were unnecessary. This is totally unacceptable abuse of his city's power and position to do so. Both Olasky and Mr. Sunday, they're not the caliber employees that the city needs to represent them. Both of them. If it was up to me, I'd fire both of them. I'll get to just pass these on real quick. You talk about rubbish. I've complained for years. On city property, this is a map of the city where Amelia and Parker Street Bridge is. Tractor trailer's been using it for a truck stop for the last 3 years. There have been times there was 4 of them parked there, and I have a picture of it. This is still a residential neighborhood. It's on there. Residential taxable, because they tore down all the houses and nothing was ever changed. And the city keeps allowing this in front of the tractor trailer, which has been there for over 8 weeks, is his old motor, which weighs 4,000 pounds, oil and barrels and rubbish. But Mr. Sunday doesn't see that. He got eyes like an eagle. He sees a lawn chair on my porch. I'm going to take all these pictures I got plus those and send them to Fox News. I talked to the producer on the phone. I'll put Bidenville on the map. I don't think the mayor's going to like it.
Thank you, Mr. Ellman.
There is no reason for all this to go on anywhere like this.
Thank you, Mr. Ellman.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to address council? Mr. Voldenberg?
5th order, 5A motions.
Mr. King, do you have any motions or comments?
I'd like to make a motion that we remove 5F from the agenda.
Second?
There's a motion on the floor and a second to remove 5F from tonight's agenda. On the question?
On the question, my reasoning is this has nothing to do with Mr. Glella. He's served the city admirably for years. But we had not received a name from the mayor, but we did just receive one. I believe it was today or yesterday for a candidate. And I would like to have the ability to at least review that individual's qualifications to potentially serve. And, you know, at the end of the day, it is a mayor's appointment, so I'd at least like to have the opportunity to see the name that was submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the question?
On the question, I'm voting no to table. The mayor had the opportunity to appoint. The time frame ran out, and then when that happens, it's the responsibility, or it's our job, to appoint a position to that board. So we did that. And receiving another applicant yesterday, when our legislation was already written up, is just that's even more late. So I think we vote this through. I'll be voting no for tabling.
Anyone else on the question?
I agree with tabling it. I think the appointments are up to the discretion of the mayor, and although we do have our vote on them if we think that they're an appropriate appointment or person to fill a vacancy. I'm not sure where the confusion happened with this legislation and why we have one candidate if they're interested in another, but I'm fine with tabling it while we take the week to figure out why that is and to take a look at the candidates further before voting on this.
Anyone else on the question? I'll vote to remove this from the agenda tonight, just to just have a conversation next week regarding this situation. All those in favor of the motion to remove 5F from tonight's agenda signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
The ayes have it, and so moved. Anything else, Mr. King?
Just one thing a resident mentioned, and I noticed Norma Jeffries isn't here tonight, but it's her issue that her pet issue for the last 3 to 5 years, street signs. Individual from West Scranton brought this up, the gentleman I've known probably for 40 years, and was expressing concerns about the street signs, and he had heard that they were going to be replaced and what happened to that initiative. So I just would like if maybe we can send something to the mayor's office to find out, or DPW, whoever's handling that project, where we are. Is it stalled? Is it actively happening? I just think that it's very important that we have street signs in the city so that, people know where they're going. And people know what street they're on. And we have people from outside the city that are coming here that they're trying to travel through neighborhoods, and it makes it very difficult when there are not accurate street signs. So that's it. Thank you.
I will, Mr. King.
Mr. Schuster, do you have any motions or comments?
Yeah, I have some comments tonight. First thing I'd like to say is Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there. Secondly, I'm sure as the budget process unrolls, I'm going to have a lot to say about this budget. For the last 2 years, I've mentioned how, I think I know it's been brought to us 2 years in a row, $1 million worth of spending, salary increases. Pella's warned us of, 3% expenditures increases per year with 1% in revenues. I know payroll prep tax has stalled. There's some money there that we're not going to see this year. It's very hard to swallow when we're taking a look at all of these increases in salaries. We're talking $35,000 increases, $21,000 increases on top of a tax increase. And I know that, it's been a recommendation to increase taxes, but it's very hard to swallow when we're seeing the amount that we're going to bring in from that increase go directly towards salaries and positions. So like I said, I'll be mentioning more about this as we go on, but that's my comments for tonight.
Thank you. Dr. Rothchild, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, I have a comment on something that I brought up a few weeks ago when we had NDC in caucus, and I know I had been in contact with a number of people, and Mr. Voldenberg had as well, and DPW was going to paint lines on the handicap spots nearby Penn Avenue and downtown, and I'm wondering where that stands. And I also am interested in setting up a time to walk downtown with perhaps with Mr. West and the resident who was particularly concerned about Penn Avenue, to see what else we need to do for the parking to ensure that people are consistently parking legally where they should be. Handicap spots are not being taken up. Even the other night when I was walking downtown, I did see that an alleyway was blocked by a vehicle. I think it was First Friday. So I would definitely like to continue the conversations and figure out solutions for those issues.
I'll reach out to Mr. West on
Thank you.
both the parking and the walkthrough.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Is that it, Dr. Rothchild?
Yes, that's
All right,
it for me this
thank you.
evening. Thank you.
Mr. McAndrew, do you have any motions or comments?
Yeah, I do. So, as mentioned during the caucus, I had the opportunity to look at the budget. I got it last week. And then I posed a question. My biggest concern was the 3% increase. So I posed a question yesterday, and my question was, how much revenue will be will we receive from a 3% tax increase? So after looking at the budget, like I said, and ran all the numbers and added them all up, the 10 new positions with benefits and the huge increases is the same amount. So, or basically the same amount. So I cannot and will not vote for a budget with a 3% tax increase that pays for 10 new positions and huge raises. The narrative in the budget says, oh, we'd have to have a tax increase because of inflation, because of coming out of COVID. Well, guess what? This is the reason not to. I mean, inflation is one thing, but asking the residents of Scranton to pay 3%, which is $1 million, for 12 new positions in huge raises, like stated earlier, 20 grand, 22 grand, 11 grand. I just have no appetite for it. And speaking of appetite, people are struggling, right? Inflation hasn't been this high in 40 years. People are struggling to put food on their table. People are going to struggle to put food on their table for Thanksgiving. And to ask them, or tell them, for the most part, send a message that, yeah, we're going to increase your tax to 3% to pay for 10 new positions and huge raises for a select few. I have a huge issue with that. That is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Just two issues that were brought up during citizens' participation. Mr. Voldenberg, we never got an update when I asked last week regarding the audit, did we? Okay, could we send another request asking for an update in regards to the audit? Thank you. And also, could we reach out to IT regarding the issues with the city website, specifically the contract section, and I believe it was the financial documents section on there, and make sure we could get that taken care of? Thank you. A couple weeks ago, council did receive a letter from a resident of the 2500 of Winfield Avenue, requesting that their streets be paved, that certain blocks of Winfield Avenue be paved from O'Hara Street, I believe, to Campbell Street. Last year, it was originally on our paving list to, I believe, pave from Kane Street all the way down to O'Hara. Because of the bid that came in and the cost of that, there were certain areas that were cut. The 25, 26, and 27, to be exact, were cut from that. But moving forward next year, I was told today that they are on the top of the list for next year's paving program. So that is good news there, because I know those areas, really do need to be paved. Lastly, I would just like to thank everybody that's reached out this week. The last few days have been quite the whirlwind, but I do want to say, I'll have more to say in the coming weeks, but I do want to say that it has been an absolute honor to sit up here on this council. And I just want to thank you all so much for all the support you've given me, and for reaching out this week. If you have emailed me this week and I haven't gotten back to you yet, I apologize. I promise I will get to them tomorrow. And that's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
5B for introduction, an ordinance establishing permit parking on the 1500 block of Pine Street.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5C for introduction, an ordinance appropriating funds for the expenses of the city government for the period commencing on the first day of January 2023 to and including December 31st, 2023, by adoption of the general city operating budget for the year 2023.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? On the question, I am still working through line by line of this budget. Like I told Jeff from the Times at the beginning of this week, when it was posted. This is a starting point. It's not the end product. In the coming weeks, I have the utmost confidence that council will work through it and come to an equitable solution, whether it's on the raises front, the tax front. I do think that I am in favor of small incremental tax increases because I think they are necessary, because if you keep them steady, if you keep your tax rates steady, especially due to a lack of reassessment in Lackawanna County, we're continually getting less money by keeping them level because the total valuation decreases every year. So I am in favor of small incremental ones, but I'm not committed one way or another to 3% at this point. But moving forward, I think, we are going to work through this line by line and see if we could come to, agreement on what works for everybody. And that's all I have on the question. Anyone else on the question?
On the question, I agree. I'm also going to continue to review the budget and this document and to discuss with my colleagues and figure out what would be most fair for the city, for employees, but also for the residents. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5D for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor, Office of Economic and Community Development, and other appropriate city officials for the city of Scranton to execute and enter into an agreement with Scranton Electric Heating and Cooling, Inc. to provide heating unit replacements for the fire station project.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5E for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor, Office of Economic and Community Development, and other appropriate city officials for the city of Scranton to execute and enter into an agreement with Carrier Corporation to provide a chiller compressor unit replacement for Scranton City Hall.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6th order, no business at this time. 7th order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, file the Council number 30, 2022. Amending file the Council number 51, 2019, and ordinance amending sections 9E of the Code of the City of Scranton governing complaint and investigation procedure.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes. I hereby declare that item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B for consideration by the Committee on Public Safety for adoption, resolution number 149, 2022, accepting a donation in the amount of $75 to the Scranton Fire Department to be placed in the Special City Services account as noted.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C for consideration by the Committee on Public Safety for adoption, resolution number 150, 2022, accepting a donation in the amount of $100 to the Scranton Fire Department to be placed in the Special City Services account as noted.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
7D for consideration by the Committee on Public Safety for adoption, Resolution Number 151, 2022, accepting a donation from Breer's Towing, located at 1013 Ferdinand Street, Scranton, Pennsylvania, for the use of 2 portable light stands used to illuminate the Kaiser Valley Community Center parking lot and Weston Field for polling purposes on November 8th, 2022, Election Day.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety, I recommend final passage of item 7D.
Second?
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted.
7E for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption, Resolution Number 152, 2022, ratifying and approving the execution and submission of the grant application by the City of Scranton to Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources C2P2 Fall 2022 Grant Program in the amount of $173,967.19 for the purposes of improvements to the Davis Trail at Naog Park.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7E.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted.
8th order, 8A, file the council number 9, 2022.
This piece of legislation is the updated zoning ordinance. It has been tabled to allow for additional input, any amendments, and any changes.
8B, resolution number 143, 2022.
This piece of legislation is the liquor license transfer. It has been tabled to allow for a public hearing to be held on Tuesday, November 15th at 5:30 p.m. Just before we adjourn for this evening, just a reminder that Tuesday's department head budget meetings will include police, fire, and DPW. And then we also have one next Thursday that includes the mayor's office, the business administrator, human resources, and the law department. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.